Martin, I'm Vice Chair of the Parish Council, and I'm chairing this evening because Kevin Cuffley, our Chair, isn't well. So we wish Kevin a speedy recovery. Hope he's here. Yes, I've got that next. And the next thing to do before we start on the agenda of the meeting is to welcome Councillor Drew, our new addition to the council, elected unopposed this week in place of Rob Grayson, Councillor Grayson, who resigned earlier in the summer. So welcome, Stephen. We look forward to your contributions to the council.
And if I just ask to sign the declaration.
Joe Parish is just going to ask you to sign the declaration. Thank you very much. Move on to the agenda. Apologies for absence.
There's a note from Colin Rose and actually made late. And oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you. We now move on to public participation time. Does anyone of the public wish to speak? Yes, would you like to speak first?
Thank you. I wanted to have a quick word about the proposal to put double yellow lines down St Mary's Road.
Yeah.
No, sorry, down Church Lane.
Church Lane. Yeah, Church Lane. Just intervene quickly there. This item is actually scheduled for our Planning and Environment meeting on the 24th of September, when we'll be having a full discussion. You're very welcome to say something now if you'd like to, but we'll be looking at that meeting at all the representations that have been received as part of the consultation and making a decision on any changes then. So I don't know whether you wish to say anything now.
I'm happy. The reason I'm here is I went into the Parish Council office, spoke to Joe, and Kevin was there.
Okay.
And Kevin suggested coming to this meeting.
Very right, yeah.
But if it's going to be discussed more later, when is the planning committee?
24th of September, Tuesday fortnight.
It'll be at the Parish Council office.
Right. I'm happy to wait till then.
Yeah. We'll be having a full discussion then as part of the agenda. And everyone will receive the papers about the representations made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Anything else from members of the public? No, thank you. Any declarations of interest for this meeting? No? No declarations of interest? Thank you. Item 76, confirm and sign the minutes. I don't think we can do that because unfortunately they weren't sent, the correct version wasn't sent out.
The meeting we should defer to July.
So we will have to defer that to the next meeting, and that means we can't consider any matters arising.
But there wasn't any of them anyway.
But any issues that people want to ask about, I suggest that you raise them under councillors' matters at the end. Is that okay? Right, okay. What about the recreation and open spaces meeting?
Sorry,
Bear with me. Thank you. Here we are. Right, got the right one. Okay, this is the meeting of 16th of July. If I go through it item by item, item 1, 2, 3, over the page, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. Now we have a recommendation here to full council to agree the quote for the yearly Rosper Play equipment inspection. Recommendation to full council to accept the quote for £260 for the yearly inspection.
It's just a vote on it, 'cause it's just
Just
a
a
vote to go.
Can we have a vote in favour?
Well, could we say that,
Tony?
I'd like to recommend this. Although we've only got one quote, attempts have been made to find more than one quote. I think we should record that in making this decision.
Yeah, okay.
And it's work, and it's work,
Enough
just to
evidence.
carry it out, so,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any more comments on that? No? Can we have a vote in favour then to accept the quote?
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you.
Thank you. Next item, item 12, we also have a recommendation to accept discussion of repairs to the zip wire at Orchard Park. Proposed to accept the quote of £923 and get the repairs done. Any comments or questions about that?
Very expensive.
Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, in order to comment, I think I might need to ask you if you wouldn't mind recording me as president for that meeting, even though I haven't managed to be there for the last 15 minutes or so. And then I can comment to somebody who was here when the matter was discussed, if by your leave. And on that basis, I just was relatively uncomfortable with the cost of this. Again, I think Joe tried to get to the quotes and wasn't able to. But it did seem an awful lot of money for what seemed to be a relatively straightforward piece of maintenance. I just think, you know, £900 plus, how many man hours would that be? What are the material costs? I mean, you could, for me, you could get two guys on site for a long time to do this work. So I'm not at all sure it represents value for money, which is what we should be looking for.
The minute
Sorry, we
says,
didn't go through
yeah,
this,
that the
but
clerk
it was-
couldn't find any.
Well, no, and it's the manufacturer that makes it, so they're sending two guys down, but it's replacing the tyre and tightening all the tension, that which we can't do.
But again, in material costs, in travelling costs to get here, I mean, it just still seems extremely
We had
expensive.
trouble with that
No,
roundabout as well, before we only had one.
I understand
Yeah.
the limitations of not being able to get other people to do it.
Councillor.
I guess that's something to bear in mind next time we wine playground.
Yes.
To think about it, but it's really difficult, isn't it? I mean, the problem is this is a specialised job, you know, if it was sort of household domestic building work, then yeah, I'd agree with you, but it's not, you know, it can't be...
It just seems to me they're taking advantage of it.
Because they know we can't, yeah.
But you try to
Oh, I
find
tried,
somebody, I mean, there must be other people who
Yeah.
repair zip wires, but presumably if we find somebody in
Wales.
Manchester or somewhere, then the travel costs will cancel out any advantage.
I did say next time we do play equipment, I will look at it, like the repairs and that on it.
Yeah.
For example, that roundabout that cost us a fortune, but we had no choice. We had to get it done. Had we known that, we could have avoided that item. So it will be something we look at for the future.
Yeah, maybe when we get quotes, we can ask them for sample
We do need, yeah.
replacement costs or maintenance costs. But
I mean, for the
Yeah.
costs,
Well, I think we don't need to send a comment to the item before. We have no attempts to find other packages and all that. This is the only puzzle we've got.
Okay, so can we have a vote to accept the quote, please? Yeah.
Against, I don't know if it's
Are you against?
I'm not against.
You
I'm
are?
not prepared to be in favour.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. Okay, carrying on with the minutes then, item 13, 15.
we've got the proposal as well.
It's not a recommendation, is it?
No, it's not a recommendation.
Oh.
We put a proposal for it. They did go through it.
Okay. 15, 18, and yes, that's the meeting done. So can I have a recommendation to accept? Seconded? Okay, can we vote to accept the minutes then, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Was there some moving around in the
Yeah.
agenda? From what I
Oh,
remember?
sorry,
Yeah. So what is it then?
15 moved, but I can't find 17. No, I think it's a typo. I think it should be 16 for the final.
Okay, maybe we can just check the numbering. Thank you. Any matters arising, new information only? Anything at all? No. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to planning applications, item 79. Item S 2480 19FL, installation of wall inset pharmacy, collection point dispenser at Sawston Medical Centre.
Can I propose we move straight to the notes?
Well, no, actually,
no, I think we should have some discussion. I've certainly got a point to raise on that. Yeah, so councillor.
Yeah, so I'm sure the residents' comments have been noted as well, but it's not, the application doesn't make it clear whether the gates are going to be open or not, and whether there's a map that describes some path changes, but it doesn't make it clear whether there's going to be a new gate in the fence or whether that's going to be permanently open. And if it isn't, if the main car park isn't open but there's a pedestrian gate, then that's obviously people are going to park on the road, and residents from around there are saying that that's clearly going to make a massive difference to them. So I would say that I don't feel we can support it without that clarification. Because although, whilst you say it's a no-brainer that they install it where it is in the
I'm going to say that I've only scan read it, and I assumed that it was just going to be while the main place was open, because it's a security risk to allow people in, and it's gated and fenced so much to stop that.
But on the other hand, the signage around all the other things, and indeed I think even the application calls it a 24-hour.
Yeah, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Yeah, I mean certainly that was my query about it. So would you like to make a proposal on that?
Well, yes, I feel that we, even though it's a valuable resource, I don't think we can support this particular application with the information that's provided, because I think if the car park isn't going to stay open, and for obvious reasons it shouldn't, then I don't think they've worked out.
Should I respond with that and ask them, and specifically ask them about the timings?
Yes, councillor Drew.
Is it for the health centre to put on their planning application that they wish to change the parking rights on the road, or is that for the planning authority to put in as a requirement when they consider the planning application? So therefore my question is, if we choose to oppose the planning application based on the fact that the proposer has not put that in, is that their responsibility? Is that not the responsibility of the planning authority to say we agree or we don't agree, but we as a planning authority will recommend that this parking change is made?
Well, I think as far as parking on the road is concerned, I mean, apart from the approaches to the pedestrian crossing, there are no restrictions along there. I think the relevant authority with the highways authority to assess whether it's acceptable to have people parking, drawing up there. But since there are no parking restrictions at the moment, I doubt whether that would be a substantive objection, actually.
There would have to be a transport assessment.
I mean, I do share the residents' concerns, actually, so I'm not dismissing it, I'm just saying.
Your concern is, Janet, but I think it's generally part of the planning application to make it clear how access and parking is going to work. Because it's so often a planning objection to say, well, there aren't enough car parking spaces, or access is going to be difficult, or this is going to plug things up for residents. So normally you expect somebody making a planning application to make all that kind of thing clear, which is why it seems they've left it ambiguous. But I guess, and the other complication is that the planning authority in this case is the district council, but the people who deal with roads and transport is the county council, so they're not the same body. But I guess part of this is also up to us. If there are no planning restrictions on the road itself, as David says, then it's up to us as the parish council to understand the inconvenience to residents and all residents to get in touch, let us know about it, and then we can oppose the application on that basis if we think it outweighs the advantages.
Because that was my point, not necessarily questioning the parking, but questioning the fact that the application doesn't make it clear
Yes.
what access there is to the new dispenser.
I would very much doubt whether they would have vehicular access to that car park 24 hours.
Well, me too, because why did they put the fence up in the first place?
I mean, site security has always been a major concern there, which is why we have had some massive lighting all the way around there.
Yes, but what's the advantage of allowing pedestrian access to this collection point and not car access? Because it's such a short distance to the road. If you want to go in there and nip drugs, you're just going to take a couple of carrier bags and nip back to your van, aren't you? It's not going to, I don't see how it affects security concerns.
If it isn't,
I've got it all planned out.
I think it's also an issue for people who might be blue badge or elderly, you know, having to park on the road and then walk across.
People
So,
need vehicle access, I would have thought.
so anyway, we've had a proposal, sorry, one more comment, yes.
Yeah, well, as part of a planning application, the district council consults widely with various interested parties, which are counties highways as well. So counties highways should be putting in a comment to this. But irrespective of whatever they say, we ought to say whatever we think.
But there's no documentation about any transport assessments for this. So we should highlight that as a risk for the application. So that even if it's delegated officers, which you probably would be, they become aware that parking out there would be a problem if there's no vehicle allowed.
So I'll try and get the information, well, we can do the vote on it.
Yeah, if we do a vote in case, because presumably there's a time limit on this. So we have a proposal that we object on the grounds that there's insufficient information about 24-hour, 7-day-a-week access and the implications for highways. Can I have a seconder for that?
Yes, I mean, do you think that we would reject it unless they're going to open the car park? Because I think then we can actually say that.
Well, I think that's what we're doing at the moment.
We can't,
but rather than saying we don't know, we could say if the car park's not open, then we do object, and that lets them know that we would support it if the car park was open, so it gives them more information about what we actually want.
Or I can get that information and highlight that and try and get it for planning, because planning's only 2 years.
Yes.
okay, so I'm suggesting we don't need a vote at this
Well,
stage.
vote to get the more information.
Okay, and then we can vote to not support subject
So not
to
support, and I'll get more information and try and get it going to the planning.
Okay, so we need a seconder for that.
That bit.
Well,
Okay, seconder. Right, can we have a vote then in support of that proposal? Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that one. Next one, S432918OL, Outline Planning Commission with all matters reserved for a phased mixed-use development at Welcome Genome Campus, Hingston, Saffron, Warden. Any comments, please, on this application? Brian.
Well, no, Brian first.
Right.
You know more about it.
It's outside the local plan,
Yes.
which is significant, and therefore basically has to be taken under national importance considerations. Otherwise, because it's outside the local plan, it wouldn't happen. We've had lots of presentations about work in progress and the adjustments that the Genome campus has made. So there's 1,500 homes, with a substantial increase in commercial development on the eastern side of their existing development. They have people who are already committed to take the commercial properties to let. There's people queuing up to be there. It's of international significance in terms of its work in the genome world. It seems to me that they made a very powerful case that because of its international significance, the national significance would probably mean, even if we rejected it, it's highly likely that it would be accepted by national government. So that's where I'm in terms of the perspective of the developer.
Kieran and then David.
No, I was just going to ask why, or what had changed since we last looked at this, and that was
Yes.
saying that they've adapted the scheme.
Yeah, well, yes. I think nevertheless, and I accept Brian's general points, but I think there are still matters of concern which need to be addressed. And I think the obvious one for us is the effect on the A1301, and the fact that in their own words that the section of it which goes through their site would effectively become a multimodal urban street with a 30-mile-an-hour limit. Now, one of the concerns through all this is the cumulative effect of what is going on in that sector. We know about agri-tech, but also I was at the Uttlesford, as Tony and Janet were, plan inquiry. If Uttlesford Garden Village was to go ahead, then I could see very, very serious congestion issues on the 1301 caused by this development, effectively creating an urban high street, and possibly in the fullness of time a requirement for a bypass around the whole site. So I think that issue needs to be flagged up and addressed. Also, the fact that there seems to be virtually no conversation taking place between Uttlesford and Welcome, which was highlighted at the examination of the Uttlesford local plan, and also as has been referred to throughout this application as well.
It's a real dilemma.
Yes,
it faces planning committees. Yes. Because of course we can only refer to extant developments or ones that are approved. And so we've got this rather strange situation where the cumulative effect of two such developments in such close proximity would end up making a significant difference to each other, for expression, and yet, as a planning authority, we can't take that the non-existent one into it.
Well, there is a way in which it can be addressed, which I've suggested in the past, and that's for a cross-border area action plan or local development plan. It's the same approach that's done on the city fringe sites, and that's worked extremely well for about 15 years ago. Well, yes. So why not between South Cambs and Uttlesford? And I find it very, very disappointing that there seems to be so little communication between the two authorities. I think the other issues that we might want to look at are the proposals for McDonald's Junction. I think one of the concerns there is to create a single pedestrian junction, pedestrian crossing across the arm, the western arm, as you go towards the motorway. And I could see that being a major source of congestion, actually. Pedestrian crossings on arms and roundabouts don't usually work terribly well.
So there's a further comment that I could make about the cost of the development.
Yeah.
And the budget is somewhere close to £1 billion.
This is the Hingston development.
Yeah,
in total.
It's a huge amount of money to be invested. And it seems to me that we've got, with those two developments, we've got sufficient requirement that I think Highways Agency ought to seriously consider making the M11, A11 junction all ways.
Yes, agreed.
Because that would allow effectively the M11 and A11 to work as a bypass around both of those sites. Yes. There is actually almost already adequate conduit or a traffic way on the old A11 that runs parallel with the new to give access to effectively 4 wentways from the north of Uttlesford Garden Village. So that would be an extra way out and therefore reduce the requirement for a southern exit, or certainly you could spread the load between those two. And with those, and I don't know where we're at in terms of Section 106 monies, for example, whether that's going to be anywhere near, but we know that highways in England are a nightmare to get anything done.
Well, I think
okay, I know that Tony was wanting to say something. So
Yeah, well, I think the significance of work that's done in the Welcome Trust, there's absolutely no question about that. And as a principle, I would fully support development of the campus. But I think the transport issues are significant. I wouldn't place so much weight on North Huddersfield because I think that's down the line, and a decision on the Welcome Trust is likely to be made before there's any firm decision on North Huddersfield. What I would say is that there has been a decision on the park just in the V as we approach McDonald's roundabout from Sawston.
Yes.
There's the train park there. And there they're talking about 1,500 jobs, 1,500 jobs in the planning schedule. The buildings are being built now, they will be occupied. So I think that needs to be taken into account. And looking at the Welcome's proposals for transport as they stand, all I can see is a really big congestion problem, much bigger than at present, at the McDonald's roundabout. And that won't do anybody any good. It won't do them any good, it won't do local residents here any good. And yet, that really needs to be sorted out. And maybe the best way is in that wider context, taking into account future possibilities such as the North Huddersfield College.
And actually, you can take, in the same context, you could take Huawei into account, because that's going forward.
Can Beck wants to say something?
I'm just going to propose that we support it, but just listing these concerns, because I don't think, it's not our remit as a parish council to try and, solve any of these problems, and I always think it's not going to be worth us saying what we think our solutions are, because all the
parish council know that it's going to be one of the most affected, and we are the largest settlement around here. So I would argue that we perhaps might need to do something stronger than
Well,
that.
I would argue it would affect the future functioning of the Welcome Trust site itself.
Yes.
There's so much congestion, as well as its impact on villages like here.
I mean, there are 8 other parish councils making more or less the same points, and I think, we ought to add our voice. There's another point I wanted to make, though, which relates to the education requirement, and I realise it's highly dependent on the breakdown of housing types on the site. But on the applicant's estimate, they reckon that it would generate about 95 to 100 secondary school pupils. And they somehow have to get to Sawston Village College. And I would suggest that, well, I think it's... Yes. Well, if you look at the heads of terms, the Sawston Village College is mentioned in there.
It says
yes.
So we've questioned that about the various meetings that we've had. So it is a live issue for secondary.
But the point I wanted to make is that where at the moment, if you're hoping that most of those students would cycle to the college, it would be sensible, I think, to ask for an SY6 towards a cycle way along the 1301 north of the 505.
I support.
Okay, can we have a proposal then on this?
Yeah.
I'd propose that we support it, but listing out concerns and recommendations. But I think it sounds to me, in principle, this is something we want to support. It's bringing a lot of jobs to the region, particularly for scientists whose employment opportunities are going to be severely affected if we leave
the other, the issue also that we raised last time during our consultation meeting about the letting arrangements for houses on that site, and the fact that you have in effect got 1,500 tied houses down there, is the issue of contracts being terminated and people not having alternative employment.
Yeah.
Whether that feeds onto our homelessness. And I know that was a major discussion at the time when Eddington was being done. It's been addressed, is it? It's been addressed.
So the last meeting we had about this, they come to basically memorandum of understanding on this.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got a proposal here that we support this, subject to all the concerns that Joe has noted. Can we have a seconder for this, please? Okay, all those in support of the proposal then?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Against?
And I'm abstaining.
You abstaining?
And no votes.
You're a no vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. So that's that item. Item S12319FL, development of buildings for B1C, B2 and B8 uses at former Marley Building Materials Limited, Westway, Dales, Manor Park. Am I right that this came to the last meeting and we raised issues about, when I checked it against the minutes, am I right that it was the same one?
No, there was a previous
Wasn't
one
anything
for fire escape.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the fire escape.
That was
Existing trivial things with the existing buildings
Let me
being approved.
yes.
a
Right.
quick look.
We did development,
This is
No, it is the same one.
this is the second half of the.
7232319FL.
in July, yeah, we discussed it.
It's the same one, and we had a vote for in favour, but we were concerned about the effect on the traffic around the Icknield school, and
No, in fact, we voted to object, do not support.
sorry, thank you for pointing that out.
11-4, whatever, yeah.
For the same reason, traffic around it.
Yeah, so I'm getting confused as
Well,
to
I
why.
don't know why it's back in there,
Yeah.
but we have asked a question, we've obviously not had a response.
Well, can we reiterate again the
Yeah,
questions and asking for the answers to that, please? Yes, weight restriction on Abraham High Street. The only thing I saw that was possibly new was about the traffic movements coming into Sawston and then north up Cambridge Road.
I think we've got two particular issues here. One, suggesting that compared with the assessment that was done in 2008, when this was originally delivered, they're suggesting that there's going to be less traffic movement than was in that proposal. And if you look at the size of these warehouse units and the number of HGV movements that you'll get along with this, along with the London Bond warehouse store, I can't see that traffic assessment is valid at all. We've got more up-to-date assessments from the County Council, so I would suggest that what we do is ensure that the latest traffic movements are taken into account and the existing 2008 assessment is completely reevaluated.
And the two large residential allocations are taken into account as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we need a proposal on that, or we'll leave the clerk to establish the facts on that then. The others, information only and planning decisions, do I need to read them out?
Joe, has anyone got comments on that?
Okay, the information only one, speed restrictions for Unity campus to accommodate construction work. Any comments on that?
It is for information only.
Information only. Okay.
Noted.
Noted. And planning decisions, well, permission is granted as Councillor Barr's just alluded to S3729 18FL and the 158 residential units, site H1B, land north of Abraham Road. Any comments on that?
Well, I asked for this to be put on the agenda, and it's simply for information.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just for information.
About decisions have already been made.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we did ask for a recording, which was refused.
And just on that, I think that if it's useful right now, seen as in an absence of a district council's report, so apologies for that, is that 88 houses on that development have been agreed in principle to be sold back from the residential developers to the district council. So they will be additional to the council house stock that we already have. In fact, that will be nearly a year's worth of normal acquisitions of council stock in one.
How many did you say? Sorry?
88.
So does that include the existing allocation?
They're all
additional.
This is just buying back affordable homes
Right,
off that development.
Okay, fine. So these are the allocated affordable homes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that
Yes.
South Council will be finding tenants.
They will.
Yes,
That's really
yes,
excellent.
yes,
Because we've had applications before that promised affordable housing and then didn't actually build any.
No.
Well, hopefully we can have some more information about how that will be managed. And
It will be fairly straightforward. They'll go into normal council house stock, allocated by preference to local residents from both Sawston and Bayground as a priority, and falling back to the wider district if we don't have to keep local people directly local people staying. So generally,
Yes,
very good news.
totally, yes.
Of the 88, what sort of number are allocated to Sawston or Bayden?
So that's what I was just trying to explain. So actually all of them will have a priority to either Sawston or Bayground residents.
Yes, but of course, but
All 88.
yes.
So if there are 88 people on the housing
Yes,
register who want to be, whose preference is to be housed in Sawston, those 88 will go to those people.
yes.
If there are only 60,
Yes.
then the other 20 will go to people
No,
nearer.
that's one of the advantages
Sorry,
of the
I don't-
council stock rather
I
than,
didn't
sorry.
quite understand
No.
the question. Is that
But I think, yes,
Maybe it's just
I think
information.
I think the issue was to, if it is housing association, the proportion the allocation is less for Sawston, isn't it, than locally?
actually in this now? What we do, we actually made specification in this that all 88 houses would have a priority.
Yes, yes.
Sorry,
Thank you.
all the
Yes,
affordable
yes.
housing,
Yes.
whoever the owners were,
Yes.
was allocated in
Okay.
preference to locals.
Thank you. Okay, any comments on the next one, which is the fire escape? No, noted. Thank you. Accounts for the months of July and August 2019.
Just one amendment which I didn't send out again,
Okay.
paperwork, August, the cleaning contract. So the total on the checklist for August is 15,825.32.
Can I ask a quick question on the clock call out on July?
Yeah.
Is that the cost for one? Because I know that
Yeah, we're keeping up with the invoices now because I've spoken to him and he has.
and was that was July? So was that that was a correction? It wasn't
That
a
was,
summer
no,
time?
it was a correction. There's a chap that lives down that, I don't know if he lives down Church now, Paddock Way, and he's keeping an eye on it for us as well, so every time it's out, he lets us know as well.
Okay, any other questions on the accounts?
Proposed to accept.
Proposed acceptance. Thank you. We got that proposed and second. Vote in favour, please.
And, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, discuss maintenance of St Mary's Church pathway. Jo, have you got an update on this?
Well, because we do maintain, I know we had this question about the maintenance of it, because we do maintain the closed churchyard, it would include footpath, so we can, we need to maintain it. I think when Reverend Partridge came last time, they came with a quote to get the work done, but I think what we need to do, because it's our responsibility, is to, or a few people to meet them, to actually gather what they need, and then we'll need to get the free quotes and do it the normal route. Because we'd asked them to get a quote because we didn't, it was unsure if we were maintaining.
Yeah, that's what I thought we'd done, was actually.
So I think, I don't know, I mean obviously I need to go, but if,
Do we need a proposal on that?
well yeah, if we can, just for who can go.
Are you proposing or any comments?
I guess cemetery.
Mike and I discussed this some 2 months ago, where we remembered that being a gravel path with gravel walls, and it was the church warden who instigated this footpath in the slight condition. So my concern...
It needs doing properly.
I realise it needs doing properly,
Yeah.
but our argument was, are we sure it's our responsibility?
Yes. If your council is maintaining a closed churchyard, it will include footpath, as this is physically in the land. But that's why it's taken so long, because I've had to get legal advice on it.
Okay, well this will presumably come back again to full parish when we have
That's what I want to do. I'd like to meet
So,
meet them to find out what they want, so then I can get the 3 quotes, and then it'll have to come back.
I'm happy to volunteer to be part of that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean,
Thank
particularly
you.
a specialist
I'm happy to go as
knowledge.
well. If you
Yeah,
need someone.
three of us, yeah, nobody else wants to.
Yeah, okay.
I would as well, but I've got no more knowledge than Karen has, so maybe some.
Okay, so we need to
Propose that we
propose
just
that we inspect it and obtain quotes for the necessary work. Seconded for that? Proposal?
Yeah, I think just,
Okay, thank you. Vote in favour?
thank you.
I'm staying as
Oh, yeah.
member of St Mary of PCC.
Thank you. Okay, 82, to discuss road closure for Remembrance Day.
Yeah, bear with me. Let's see. Okay, right, road closure. So, we agreed to pay for the road closure and help organise the event. The road closure is around £1,500. So, wants to bring it up to say that if it's going to be an ongoing cost, I want the council to agree so we can put it in the budget rather than keep bringing it up.
Okay.
It's something we're going to pay.
Any queries or questions on that?
Did we agree that we were going to pay the whole cost of it, or did
Yeah.
we agree that
We
we
agreed to
would
pay for it.
underwrite the whole cost of it and see whether the British Legion
agreed
would
to
get
pay.
other funding? I
We agreed to pay for the road closure.
Okay,
I think
so I was going to say, I propose that we
I
we
think,
take it on
Yeah.
and budget for it for 2020 and thereafter.
So just to clarify Beck's point, I seem to remember that that's exactly what we did in the first instance. We said if the county council came,
yeah, then we came back to the council to pay for it.
and they wouldn't, and therefore we agreed to pay at this occasion. So the extension of that is we're just going to take it on the chairman.
Well, this is what the, yeah,
Okay.
Likelihood of county council deciding to pay for something they don't currently pay for.
So we have a proposal for that. Yeah, seconded?
Well, no, I want to make a comment. There's nothing to stop us asking for the British Legion to make a contribution towards the cost.
It might be worth doing, again, value for money or making sure that we're getting best, even if it's a relatively small contribution to it.
And that was looking back at the minute, because I seem to remember they came as a deputation on this item, didn't they?
British Legion.
I think in
And obviously they don't
mitigation,
pay for that, it's all passed down to Parish Council, isn't
I
it?
think in mitigation,
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
So I think in mitigation, they now cover the cost of the service sheets which the parish council used to carry at one time, so some years ago.
Okay, councillor Drew.
I'm sure on a couple of occasions over the last year, I may be incorrect, that there has been requests for funds from the parish council on behalf of the British Legion. So if we are taking on responsibility for this, are we also considering therefore that effectively we are donating £1,500 a year to the British Legion? Or are we considering it something that actually we ought to do as the parish council because it's about us as a village and the British Legion just happens to be the organisation associated with it? The reason being, if the next time the British Legion came to ask us for money, are we kind of already saying we've given you £1,500 or not?
I was going to say, I think the feeling when we talked about this last time was that it was effectively a parish, a village event.
Sorry, widely supported.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
No, indeed, but
Considering where we are with it.
Yeah, that is something to take account of when, as you say, when we get requests for donations.
I think it's a valid point, because I think actually the occasion, so far as I know, the British Legion don't ask for input from anyone to the occasion, and it is very much run by them. So I think Stephen raises a valid point that we're actually paying for, we're making a donation to them effectively. Now, it may be something to which the whole village can go, but there may also be people who don't like the way, the particular way that it is set up and run by the British Legion. So, for instance, I've definitely spoken to parishioners who don't like the religious element or the military element of it, and those seem like valid concerns to me. So I think it's an interesting point. I think we might want to think about whether, if we're going to pay for the whole thing and make a commitment to pay for it every year, we might want to think about whether we want to do it differently. And that's I think, you know, that's a big thing for us to take on.
Okay, I think...
Well, we don't have to. I mean, the proposal, or the reason for putting on the agenda was to say, do we want to make this effectively build it into the budget rather than making it an annual decision.
Yeah.
We don't, if we think that actually we want to review it more often, then we don't have to
Well,
make it
did we answer the question whether the British Legion have asked anybody else to fund it, tried to find any sponsorship, tried to raise any money themselves? I thought we'd asked them.
I think we need to defer this to October, because my understanding is that it has been passed down to the British Legion, to Parish Council. Yeah, which is why we agreed to take on the cost of the
Can we, I mean, just
to
draw this discussion to close, can we agree that the clerk looks into the minutes and what the responsibility of the parish council is, and bring it back to the October meeting? Do we need a proposal?
No, that's fine.
Okay, the clerk will look into that. So thank you for all those comments. Thank you. 83, to agree contract for Christmas lights in the High Street. Any information? Right, information and comments.
Okay, so we're trying to get 3 quotes. Again, it's also struggling with Christmas lights because we need a company that will provide the Christmas lights, come and put them up, maintain them, take them down, rather than us buying the lights and storing them, etc. So I managed to get 2 quotes, 3,900 plus VAT and £5,089.90 plus VAT.
Is that per annum? Sorry.
No, this is per year. This is a 3-year contract for 25 lights and the Christmas tree lights.
Yeah.
Is there a vast difference in the quality of what you get for those?
No, but the lowest quote is the company that we normally use.
Okay, Brian, then yeah.
Yes, just a query. I thought we'd already gone through this process.
We have, but the 3-year contract.
3 years ago. After that.
That was agreed on 12th July.
Thank you.
So have we not got Christmas lights for this year? Has that contract expired?
So the contract's expired, so this is a new contract for the next 3 years, which will start for this year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Neil.
Does that mean it's a new contract, so it'll be new lights as well?
If we want new lights, depends if we go with the same company that we used last year.
Okay, could you,
So is the cheaper quote to the existing one?
And I must admit, they are very good. Whenever we've had, I mean, you've always gone around and
I
they've come out right straight away, don't they? Yeah, they're quite local.
Value for money basis, we're quite happy with those.
I will endorse that, because one of the great benefits of the company we use now is that they come down promptly after Christmas. And I remember on occasions in previous contractors, they've been up to the end of January on occasions. So
I suppose we accept that.
Accept the low quote, second over there. Yes, can we have a vote in favour of accepting the lower quote then? Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
You're allowed to vote on this. Okay, thank you. Okay, 84, to discuss consultation of land sale at 46 Common Lane. I think everyone's had a copy of the email about this. This is land owned by South Cambs District Council, who've received a request to purchase the area of land, and I think there is a little plan attached of the land. Okay. Any comments, please? Okay.
I cannot think of any reason not to say it's a good idea.
Okay.
I'm
Any
sure
other
someone
comments?
else might.
Any other comments?
I just like a slight clarification, because I don't think it was entirely clear from that, or the version I saw, as to whether they're proposing to sell the whole of that area to 46, because part of it is behind 48, and it seemed patched across. It seems inequitable to sell the whole of that land to one resident when you back onto 2 properties. That's very comment.
Any
The
comments?
officers have checked with the Satchels, with the neighbours, and they had no problem with them selling that land, so that has been addressed.
Okay.
And as Steve says, it's very contentious, I think. It'll keep the base relatively tidy where it's been a structural spot, and it will get us a few shillings into the South Council coffers.
Yeah, it's a shame the parish council doesn't get anything.
So, I'm sorry, I can't find the email. Can anyone direct?
It was from Claire.
She just sent out the agenda.
Yes.
Apparently, how come on there?
Yeah, it hasn't got dates attached to it. It was one of the attachments to the agenda. Okay.
So is this privately owned land?
No,
Yeah,
it's
belongs to
not.
South Council.
Sorry, what that's time?
South Council.
Oh, right, okay, so we're just being asked for an opinion, really.
We are, or any reason that we shouldn't sell them.
I know we have a policy that we don't sell parish council land, don't we? Because people always try to buy things.
Yeah, we have in the past rejected it. They're asking for our comments by Monday, 7th of October. Yeah, that would be great. So I assume a day or two, doesn't matter.
No, it's
Oh,
You're wishing me well.
I know we were talking
about Christmas lights.
Okay,
Propose that
thank you.
we
Propose.
raise no objection to the same.
Okay, seconder to this?
Yeah.
Tony? Yeah, thank you. Can we have a vote in favour of accepting the sale?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I'm abstaining too, because I don't know enough about it.
Thank you. Item out of
Sorry,
eight.
Janet, sorry.
Against.
Against. Sorry. Yeah, okay, yeah.
You've got it all there. Item 85, to discuss the energy quotes for the street lights in Silverstone.
I don't have any quotes to give you.
In that case,
It's been an absolute nightmare, and all the other parts are finding the same.
Yes.
I mean, I've got a company that's looking into it and told me I'd have quotes today, but I'll chase them.
So, can we take advice from the clerk as to what action you'd like us to take? Because
Torches? David, what's
we can
doing
defer this
exactly?
to planning, but planning don't actually have delegated
I know.
powers to spend the money. That's the.
Tony,
Don't you quite like torches?
Yeah.
comment?
Okay, we can't defer it to planning, but we could defer it to a meeting of the full parish council held before planning. So we could have a short planning council meeting.
But
Quarter, half an
I
hour.
was going to say, actually, it's
If
the
you've
end
got
of
some
October, they're giving us
If we got
until the end of
quotes.
October, so we could take it to.
It's
the end of October, but it's time is, so I can defer to October.
Yeah, Brian?
I also just wanted to urge some caution if we do get a quote that we don't do what we're currently minded to, which is get a 3-year quote or something.
They were doing a quote for 1, 2 and 3.
Well, particularly because of the bringing in of LED lights across the district, and therefore the cost of running the street lights should diminish significantly. It could be down as little as 20% electrical usage. So we just need to be aware of that. So we don't get tied into a long contract.
I have asked for 1, 2 and 3 year
But
quotes, so.
what I'm more specifically suggesting is that we make sure we know how many of our lights are changed to LEDs and therefore have an option in whatever quote we get. That doesn't mean we're paying for normal lights that will.
How do I know what that's a LED?
Yes, can I come in on that? Because I mean, most of our lights, as you know, the old sodium type, and a large proportion of them are the old concrete columns, which are probably getting towards the end of their life. And I'm completely unclear as to who is responsible for the cost of replacing those. Because I always thought that was going to be done under the Balfour Beatty contract, but it wasn't done when the other ones were. And I'm just
You've been doing an audit of the street lights, haven't you?
We were trying to,
Yeah, we did ask about that in the last meeting. Okay, so is there anything more we can put in the specification request about those kind of issues?
So just another suggestion. So there are 2 different systems for streetlight reporting which show those that are under the responsibility of the district council and those that. So what we should do really, Joe, is cross-reference the work that you and Karen have done to audit them with that information which again is still probably going to be manual. I don't know.
Yes.
But this is the implication of the county council's decision to push it down to us. You know, it's very simple actually. They're saying it's an administrative burden to them, but when you dice it up, it's greater, suddenly greater than the balance in terms of cost.
I think
We'll defer to October.
we'll defer to
just
October.
try and
And
get
could you
more
minute
information.
those issues that have been raised about the lights and the cost and the concrete pillars and the audit? Yeah, thank
Is
you.
it worth a formal response to the county now to say that we've been having
Difficulties.
difficulties getting a quote, so that if it gets to the end of October and we say we can't take it on from this point, we've at least got an audit trail.
And it sounds from what Joe was saying that that's common across the...
Exactly.
Yes.
So
And we've given them the opportunity to offer some helpful solutions, since they're trying to push the whole thing.
Thank you. Do we need to propose
That's
this?
fine.
And Joe will do that, that's fine.
David, is there any way we can get more evidence to prove, like the columns or the lights and things, from the county council?
Well, there is a list. In fact, there are several lists which I forwarded to Joe.
Oh yeah, but we've gone round, that's what we've spent days doing.
Oh,
It's
yes,
not, the
yeah,
list is
yeah,
very
yeah,
out of
yeah,
date,
yeah,
so there's
yeah.
loads of columns that
Well,
don't exist on the list.
There are
and stuff.
108 on the current list, actually, which is the one on the...
No, it's,
Yeah.
not anymore.
That's only about 2 years old, I think, because it's a lot more before
Well, recently you mentioned the concrete posts and they're starting to fail.
They are.
Concrete's dropping off and they're having to repair them in situ.
Well, a particular issue with them also is that the inspection hatches tend to come loose, and I've had to report those inspections as well.
Okay, thank you. I've got enough there, Joe, on that one then. Thank you, everyone. Item 86, discuss the maintenance of the footpath between Sawston and Whittlesford.
Yeah, I'd like to defer that to October, because I know Kevin was leading on that and he spoke to county, so we've got to there's an issue with that, so I'll defer
So we'll
to
defer
October.
that. Do we need...
Could you pull me in on that discussion, because I've been meaning to talk to Kevin about it as well.
Yeah.
Because I was formulating a plan, because there were also, just on the very first bit, so not Catley's Walk, but the bit before that, that's a very narrow footpath, there's a bit just before the brook, where there are lots of fence posts that have come down. There's a lot of barbed wire around, which is not good, because obviously it's a route to Willie Wesley Schools, there's a lot of small children there. And I was wondering whether I could sort of confer with Kevin and with the landowner of the farm on the right-hand side, who I've got contact details for, see whether we could actually get rid of some of that fencing, because there's a line of trees there, but it just requires a bit of conferring. And also there's a sort of build-up of dead leaves and mud at the side of the path, and I wonder whether you might be able to get a working group to just sort of transfer some of that. So it'd be nice to just try and work
I'll copy you
note
an email
that
to Kevin.
in the minutes as well, that'd be great. Okay. Item 87 on co-option.
I was going to talk on this. So it says for the recent vacancy, but that's actually redundant. It was more that we needed to review whether, with the vacancies that we have, whether we felt we needed to open any of those vacancies up to advertise co-option. As we talked about when we adopted our latest co-option policy, we'll do that on the basis of kind of missing skills. And so I don't know how we best do that, whether we do that here, whether we defer it to F&GP, or whether there's a feeling that actually we don't need to do it at this point.
So there's two.
Pushing back to F&GP.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. Well, it doesn't need to be a proposal, it just
It's
needs
just
to
to
be.
refer to F&GP.
I guess if it goes to F&GP, I think it would probably be good to ask everyone on full parish as well to just come up with ideas for skill sets that they think are missing from the council. Because I think, given the different skill sets that existing councillors have, it's useful to get everybody's different input about what they think is missing.
Well,
Because maybe some of us, don't know enough to realise what's missing.
Yeah, well, perhaps I'll try and do that ahead of F&GP, so we have some
do a little
information.
mini survey, that we could have the results for. that'd be great.
Good plan, thank you.
Just in that comment, if I may, I mean, we're effectively saying we want skills orders with the existing council. But nobody's ever asked me for a CV.
Well, exactly, so it
So
would be a good job.
do we need to provide them?
Well, that's what
I
we
think
were just
we
saying,
know what's
the head of F&GP, let's I'll volunteer.
Sorry, I thought you were saying ahead of F&GP we could decide or comment on the missing skills
No, I think
rather than existing. So
I interpret that was what Beck had originally said, and I interpreted it to be that I'll work on some kind of survey that can go out so that we have the answers for
Yeah, I think
F&GP.
that's exactly right. We don't know a bit what we've got, but we know what we're missing.
That's
and
right.
maybe
Yeah.
then-
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, can I just say something on that? Without wishing to have a debate about it, but you can if you wish to. That issue was raised by my predecessor, Councillor Grayson, about over 6 months ago. And when I raised the issue, sat there, regarding co-option, Rob raised the issue of doing a skills audit, and a discussion was had about it, and an agreement was made that it would be done. And we are now 6, 9 months later, and the council is having the conversation to do it. I would just like to make the point, as unpopular as it may be, that perhaps the suggestion to do it 9 months ago, which everyone concurred with, perhaps that should have been acted on at that point, rather than sitting here 9 months later and agreeing to do it.
Well, we've had a proposal, we've agreed that we'll go back to F&GP,
Yeah.
and Kieran will take action on that. So I think
But that doesn't take
that's
away
right.
from the fact that it was raised 9 months ago and wasn't done.
Not necessarily the only thing we're
Well, thank you.
No,
Thank you
that's
for that
fine, I
point.
just
Thank
want
you
that
very
to be
much.
there.
Can we move on to the next item, please, then? To discuss purchasing new goals for Linton Way.
Yeah, so Salisbury United, they're getting more and more children's teams, and they've asked if we could purchase some goals for Linton Way. It's 11v11 goals, but the goals which are the smaller kids use smaller goals which are 21 by 7 foot. We do actually budget for the goals, and the budget, well, the cost for these ones is £2,271.60 plus, that's including delivery and VAT. But they're foldable goals that will go in the goal enclosure that we've got at Linton Way. We have got some at Spicer's, but we just felt that, I know before we've always said we should own all our goals and everything, so that, which is why we budget for them, so that we are responsible for them.
Yeah, but do you want to say something
No,
on this?
I mean, because they buy them really often.
No, we bought some nets.
I was going to ask.
That was maybe last year. We haven't bought actual goals for a while. We did the goal,
4 or 5 years.
we did the goal enclosures, didn't we? But these are foldable ones, so they will fit in the goal
Can you just
enclosure.
confirm the price?
And again, it's 2271.60.
Yeah, but it's not actually that much.
Well, no, that's including carriage and VAT.
And that would come out of the
Budgeted
budget.
figure.
Yeah.
It's
I
about-
propose we accept.
Sorry, second.
Okay, we have a proposal to accept. Do we have a seconder? Yeah.
Sorry.
Do we vote or do we-
Second.
Yeah.
Kieran,
All right.
sorry.
Okay, Brian, we're voting on accepting the quote.
I'll abstain because I wasn't here and I don't really mind.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just think it's better if we own them, because then we're in control of them, and yeah.
Okay, can we have a vote in favour of that then, please?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Next item to discuss the time-bound funding allocation. You have a
Again,
suggestion?
this, I think we need to defer. I know Kevin had a meeting with Emma, the time bank coordinator, and CHS, but I wasn't involved in it, and I know they wanted to discuss it, so I'd like to defer that to October for Parish.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just check, is October when Emma's going to come and give a...
Yes, she's going to come and give an update as well.
So I think we can't really do the discussion about further funding without...
Yeah, I'm not sure it was further funding, but yeah, that's fine.
Item 90, to discuss safeguarding training for staff and councillors.
Okay, back in, I think it was June, we spoke about safeguarding policy, created the policy, level 3 policy, which we need to still look at. And then at the meeting, it was agreed to adopt it and give the training to all staff and councillors. But on having spoken to CHS and with Kevin, unfortunately he's not here, the question's being asked now is it necessary for everyone to have the training? Or is it just the clerks? So this is my question, because obviously I don't want to go... I mean, I've got a cost, but it's... The NSPCC do a one-day training on safeguarding, it's £225 per person.
Sorry, could you just be crystal clear? This is safeguarding about working with children?
Yes.
Well,
And vulnerable adults.
And vulnerable.
Well, no, they're called adults at risk now.
So I don't think any of the rest of us
Well, that's
with
why-
children or adults as parish councillors, do we? And I can't quite see any reason why we would.
No, which is why I'm questioning it before I go ahead and...
Just a moment, David.
That's fine.
To say
I was
something.
gonna- could it be argued that receiving safeguarding training in relation to children and adults at risk would provide appropriate awareness in decision making for councillors? Is that
I think that's
a possible argument for why councillors should do it? I'm completely in two minds. I can easily see both sides, but I wonder whether it's about...
I think that was my perspective, was that we are wanting to implement a policy, and actually informing that policy. At the moment, many of us, me included, are really quite ignorant about safeguarding issues. So how can we make a rational, evidence-based decision without understanding the issues? And then being able to support the staff as councillors in revising the policy or whatever else. I was very conscious of reading that documentation, and there were two parts. There was an abbreviated version, headline stuff, and then there was the very detailed, more detailed policy. And what I was thinking at that time was, at least if we had, as councillors, an understanding of the headline stuff, the abbreviated, the bridged version, that would at least allow us to then come up with a rational decision about approving a policy.
Yeah, David wanted to say something.
Yes, I was just going to say that some years ago this issue was raised at South Council overall membership, and officer advice at that time was that it was not necessary for ordinary members to do it unless their role specifically involved dealing with children or adults at risk.
It is possible as well to do the training by other means. I mean, I did it online, got a certificate a year ago. So it is possible if we can identify who actually needs to have some training.
Well, this is what I want to know. I mean, it might be that I can get companies to come out and
it might be
and do
cheaper
it,
to do it that way.
all of us. But that's what I just want to know before I go ahead and start doing this. Is it all of us or...
What do you want to...
What happens if somebody phones us up with an issue and asks to see us, and we don't know whether they're vulnerable adults or not? We could easily come into contact with people who are vulnerable adults.
Yeah,
I think it is valuable for councillors, as well as to give that wider perspective.
And in that context, is it possible, for example, with NSPCC, where if we commission them to do a training course for the staff for the parks, then could we append a shorter session, an hour or whatever, for the whole council, to take an abridged version, for want of a better expression?
Beck, did you want to say something?
Yes, I think Annie's just implied that he's already had training. I think
And I have too.
Can we ask who has had this kind of training already, just so we know well they've done it?
Yeah. Right, so what do you want me to do?
Can I just say, I think the thing that Brian's added there at the end does sound, because in a sense it doesn't sound to me that those councillors, even taking what Tony said, really need a qualification as such in it. So obviously professionally, as a teacher, a teacher and also in the school government, you've done it as well. So therefore, professionally, I have qualifications for everything. But it's kind of not necessarily at that level, is it? What you're talking about is awareness and we dealing with people. It may be that SPCC are able to kind of say, okay, we need 3 hours, we don't need a whole day, we need 2 hours, 3 hours. an awareness raising course.
Could I suggest that Joe does a bit more work
Yeah.
on looking at the
Are we saying
options and costs?
All the staff,
Yeah.
we can set the grounds
Yeah.
and that as well, so obviously
Yeah.
on evacuation, so all the staff
Yeah.
to do the training and then see what's available.
Yeah, and
Yes,
come
and
back
that's
to
what we get.
another meeting. But meanwhile,
That's
I mean,
fine.
you're right, we do need to have awareness of the policy, etc. Okay, so is that enough for you, Joe, to do something on this then? Thank you. To discuss the issues of public parking in the village. I think Brian has information on this.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll keep going round in a circle. The Police and Crimes Commissioner says he won't fund or let us fund BCSO. However, he will also not give any priority to the police who are responsible for parking, carrying out the work necessary to stop it occurring. So we've gone down from the last year, I can remember, it was about 120 local in the Salisbury Parish to about 12.
Sorry, Beck, did you want to
Yes,
say something?
I just wanted to ask at that point, is that recent development? Because I thought the last conversation we had with everyone he suggested that we should get together with other parish councils and employ somebody, but maybe that wasn't a PCSO, because he's saying we should employ somebody different to actually...
Yes, I mean, if we come back a bit, we've got either police enforcement of parking, or we've got civilian parking enforcement schemes. And because of the nature of not only the district but the wider Cambridge area, we are one of the few, I think, roughly 6 out of 120 county councils that don't have a CPE. The situation in Cambridge City is different, and they have got a scheme there. We haven't got one here, and largely South Cambs has been a rural area, a collection of villagers with no real reason for a civilian parking enforcement scheme, and you can't. It can't cost money. It can't cost tax or ratepayers money. So it has to cover its own costs broadly. And if you look at a neighbouring county, Huntingdonshire, they were refused a CPE because they couldn't cover their costs in doing so. And they already have off-street parking of their own, and they also manage under contract for the county council the on-street parking. So there's a slight complication in that as well. So if you've got paid parking bays on the roads, the county council, but the county council doesn't want to actually manage their parking, so they give the whole thing to the district council. So we've got that issue. We've done a working paper presented to cabinet on this. The costings just don't support civilian parking. The nearest one to us that works is North Hertfordshire, which has Royston, Hitchin, Baldock. But the vast majority of the money that they raise are from Hitchin, because that's the largest area where they've got on and off street parking again. They've gone from losing a little bit of money when it was first started about 12 years ago, and they're now running it on a sort of break-even level. But we don't have the towns to support that sort of scheme.
So the problem is that for the finance itself, the fines would have to be punitively high to support the wages of the person enforcing it.
With some of the problems in Salisbury.
And the infrastructure. So you need the systems for issuing tickets, for recovering the money, chasing people who don't pay. You need the computer systems, you need the manager to run it, the deputy and so on. You need employees who will actually go out and do the enforcement.
Yeah, okay. So what do you
civilian
propose
parking
then?
enforcement seems to be off the table.
Okay, so have you got
And in the
proposals?
absence of that, then the obvious option is for either a single or multiple parishes to fund a PCSO that is dedicated and managed by those parishes to concentrate on that particular issue. And it seems to me that actually, once you establish a surveillance system with a single person, all of a sudden, the work that some people are, at the moment, there's no threat. We can park, as people do, anywhere, with no realistic threat of getting a ticket. As soon as you put somebody in their working territory, everybody starts being compliant because there's a chance of getting a ticket, and they don't want to pay 60 quid for a day's parking on Mill Lane or elsewhere.
Which is also what we want. We don't want people to be parking illegally and paying fines and we're making money to pay for something to issue tickets. People to actually stop that parking.
Any other comments or questions?
So the natural conclusion of that is that we talk with other parish councils, because I don't think we on our own have sufficient of a problem to employ somebody full time. There are examples elsewhere, so Glastonbury, for example, do this, Warrington. So Jason Ablewhite, his most recent pronouncement with Barry Ashurst and Peter Fane held in a meeting in Sawston Village College was absolutely the contrary to what you thought you'd heard, and he again ruled out the hiring of the PCSO, but he's got no justification for doing so, because it's perfectly possible. We can cite cases elsewhere of it not only working, but working well and solving the problem. So that's what I think we need to firm up as a proposal, do some costings at about 35 grand a year if it's full time, less if it's part time. And can we get effectively a little consortium, roll it out, do a pilot scheme for a year, and see if we can get, because the number of PCSOs is going down. They're actually trying to hire full-time police rather than PCSOs. So presumably there will be PCSOs wanting other work.
Okay, any questions or comments? Yes, Steve.
No, I thought one of the guys no. Okay, this sounds really Machiavellian, but does the consortium you're referring to of parishes not need to be larger than we might think it needs to be, so that the person who is doing this is stretched a bit thinner than they might otherwise be?
Yes.
So that actually people don't, if it was say just us, if it was just us, I don't know, in the Shelfords and stuff, whatever, you know, sort of half a dozen local regions, then your argument that that person would be roaming around all the time, everyone would park nicely and we make no money. Awful as it may be, as much as we don't want to make the money, we have to make the money.
We have to cover the cost.
We have to cover the cost.
So
in a sense, you almost need a consortium that is 20 villages, so that it's actually a bit too large for the person, so that people think they're going to get away. It sounds really awful, but you've almost got to create enough of a...
oh yes, probably. We need to look into
I don't think that's the case. If it's civilian parking enforcement, it can't use public money, so it has to pay for itself. If we're employing part of the PCSO, then we can fund that as part of our budget.
Okay.
So that's
okay, if I missed that, okay.
So hang on a minute. We're just, I think David wants
I think the issue that Brian's highlighted is quite a key one. That is, with several occasions had mixed messages from the police. There's as you say, in some areas we know that they do. It sounds like they're meeting where Glastonbury was talking about it. But as I understood it, the problem was that although the police have no objection to you playing for a PCSO, they come under police management, so that you don't actually have any control as a parish council as to where they go.
Actually, that wasn't the case at Glastonbury, so I've had a conversation with them about this.
Yeah, but
so technically, of course, they come under police control, and if there's an emergency and they need to call on them, they can do. So they've got first dance on them, or whatever the expression we could use. But day to day, the priority for their work and their schedule of work is determined by, in that case, Glastonbury Town Council, because it's slightly bigger than us, 15,000, I think. And they work in that case from the town hall.
Right.
So, and people know that they're located there. And so what it does, when they're not actively doing their primary role, there is somebody that everybody wants, which is a policeman on the beat.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Brian.
So I just want to cut to the chase because
Yeah,
we're
go
out of time. So it seems to me step one is find out whether it's legal for us to employ a PTSA
Yeah, I agree.
under PS management. Step two is to find out how much a person like that is going to cost. Step three is to decide how high a proportion of them we're prepared to pay for. And step four is to start recruiting other parish councils to pay for a slice of that person as well.
Yeah, I think there's another one which is about clarifying the employment arrangements, because if it's a bit like time banking, if this is going to require more time from the clerks and more costs for us, we need to understand that.
So maybe part of step one to see whether if we pay for a PSO's time, they're still managed by the police.
Yes.
I don't understand. This sounds like
Well, the employment is by the police.
Yes.
And the day-to-day management and the setting of the priorities is taken by the town council, and then they can revert to direct police control in an effectively.
Well, I think what we're asking for is something in writing that confirms that. I think that's what Beck's asking for.
And as we heard, two different
The work that we've already done.
just from the same person, in fact, at different meetings.
So the work that we've done on the district council will.
So should I propose that as a plan of action?
Well, Parish did discuss this about 3 or 4 years ago, and Great Shelford actually took it up. And I think it'd be worthwhile talking to Great Shelford about their experiences, because their experience was that as soon as there was an issue that required more police present, the person was taken away from the activities and went into Cambridge or whatever to deal with other police matters. So I think it'd be worthwhile contacting them to see what problems they experienced and how it could be perhaps better managed or also.
So there's Mike Nettleton was part of the discussion that we had to formulate the policy that we put to Cabinet on this. So we've an example of Peter Fane, who were also involved, have contributed that in a big way. So we've already taken locally at South Cambs their experience into account. There was an issue, actually, they didn't employ them full-time, they didn't pay for full-time employment, they paid for overtime.
Yeah.
And that was a significant difference in terms of the operation. And of course, yes, what happened was a lot of the time the PCSOs got dragged away because it wasn't their priority. So their normal day-to-day activities overrode any additional work for the local.
So thank you.
I think that's part of finding out what the deal is, in terms of the management and time allocation and what you are actually paying for. So I think that's step one before we can make any more decisions.
Okay, well, Joe's written down all these questions. Do we need
to you also need to speak to Shelford now.
Who will you write
No,
to?
so what I'll do, I'll distribute the working papers that we did and presented to South Cambs, because this discusses all of that. And then perhaps what we could do is put some budget figures together to the next meeting, so we can consider it.
Yeah, I think we had a proposal from Beck that actually we want to understand the answers to these questions first. So, I mean, can we, if you can send the report, if the report doesn't answer these questions, maybe if you can give us the name of the person to write to, then that would be really good. Because I think this is something the parish council.
I need to speak to.
Yeah, then that would be really useful next step. Do we need to get a seconder on that?
Yeah, we would propose that we do that. So Brian, let me know who I need to speak to.
Yeah, so we've got a proposal that we
ask all these questions.
that we get responses to these questions and look at the South Cambs information and bring responses back to the next parish council when we've got more information about it.
I think one of the critical things we ought to do in that context and establishing the legal status is to write directly to PCC. So if we write to Jason Hibblewhite and ask him for a position statement on that, because at the moment it certainly seems to be
that's fine.
That would be great. That would, Anything else from you?
Yeah, just alongside that, Janet, I think I wonder if it's worth exploring and asking around to see if there are any other solutions. I mean, these presents and parking restrictions and fines is one solution, but there must be other, more holistic.
There's two. There are only two options. There are civilian parking enforcement schemes or the police doing what's effective.
Okay, thank you.
We just need a vote.
Need a vote. Have you got a proposal?
Yes,
vote in favour of that
Yeah.
action plan. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And again, mobile warden scheme. I think Brian sent round a email about this. If you could briefly summarise this and what your proposals are on action, that would be really good.
Yeah, I mean, we've been approached by, Joe was approached by South Cambs District Council. South Cambs would like to extend the mobile warden scheme that's widespread elsewhere, but with patches of people not doing this. And this is a scheme whereby vulnerable people, typically older people, are monitored, typically by a phone call every day to make sure everything's okay. And then a visit once a week, although apparently in Harston, the mobile warden there manages to visit all the residents on the scheme once a day, and actually goes to the village shop in the morning and gets milk and papers, I understand. So, well, Tony's shaking his head. So the issue of older people living longer in their own homes is one that is increasing. The document that I sent round, I know it was late, but I only had a meeting with the officer yesterday for these details. We've got an ageing population, we know about that. The number of people over 70 is increasing at a fast and furious rate. The number of people that are 90 plus is accelerating. And it's putting a burden, as we know, on social care, on the health service, bed blocking we already know about, and so we need to extend the amount of
What I was going to say, last time we had all this, it was the justification of spending a huge amount of money on the time bank scheme, and that's what that was meant to be looking at. So why is there...
Well, that's not true. That was certainly part of it, and actually
it's a huge part of it.
Well, there's...
I think one of the things that is in this email is the grants that are funding that is available, but I agree with what Beck's saying, because we did get kindly caught by the issue of time bank. I was wondering whether to propose a way forward, which is firstly to see whether we support in principle the idea of a mobile warden scheme, and then to go away and actually get the more information about it, and in particular the costings and the different options. I mean, I know Brian has put in his email several ways in which it could be provided.
There's two principal ways. There's, and the other parishes that do this most frequently doing it with third party, so Age UK are running these schemes. And that has financial advantages because if Age UK do it, the council offers funding towards it. So other people, so Melbourne, which includes Meldreth as a scheme, they do it privately, but you have to set up a board of trustees to run it. So it's more complicated.
It's not clear to me why it's trying to be devolved onto parish council, because social care isn't our responsibility.
Well, okay, so but what we have is an established mobile warden scheme that really derived originally from the sheltered housing schemes, where each scheme had more of officer time looking after them who were able to do very similar things. And then, of course, the funding for that was withdrawn, and an alternative was sought, which was effectively the mobile warden scheme, where you would take on more people, so 15 people in a village, somewhere our size we'd expect to do more, contribution of between £7 and £12 a week for people to contribute, although clearly that doesn't cover the cost.
So, Janet, are you suggesting deferring this anyway? Because I also think we've got a visit from the time bank coordinator in the October meeting. It would be very useful to hear you know, how that scheme is progressing in terms of what seem like very similar aims.
We have
So to be able to look at the two in parallel.
Okay, so although they've got some crossover, and in fact, one of the things that happens elsewhere with town bank schemes is that they have volunteers in town bank systems helping out over weekends to cover for when the mobile warden isn't working. So that's and we've got a situation where I understand that we've got more volunteers than actually requests for assistance in the town bank scheme.
Well,
so that will
hear whatever says. Any other comments or queries about this?
Well, I think there's some potential synergy there, and I think it'd be helpful to see the time coordinator and take it from there.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'd like to defer and meanwhile, read a bit more about it?
Or would it be worth the time bank coordinator meeting with Brian before? So
I think it should include some.
well, no, it should, but I'm just
council
thinking
as well.
it's just we're going to spend another half hour discussing that when Emma's here as well, and they need to get the information first.
Steve, did you want to say something?
It probably isn't in the document, but I wasn't entirely sure. And I know it's probably an unfair question to ask. Are you looking for the parish council to provide funds?
yes.
Right. And any idea of what kind of figures?
So there's a very big dependent, unfortunately, but in a typical case, the cost of the parish councils is between 1,500 and £2,500, depending on how much funding they have.
Per year?
So per year.
Per person, that'd be good. Per year. Okay.
So for example, Stapleford have big reserves and they're well off.
Yeah.
So their funding level is less. So there's
okay, I agree completely with the idea of deferring. I would just want to point out that we have just, very quickly, I completely accept that's how much football goals cost, by the way, but we have just spent somewhere near to that figure on buying 2 football goals for young people and perhaps slightly older people, without too much debate about the cost. And to some extent here we are talking about 2,000 to 2,500 for
I think we
older people. I realise it's not absolutely the same, but I would just mean we ought to consider the context of the two.
I think that's
I don't think it's a completely fair comparison, I accept that.
Well, I was going to say, I agree with you, but one thing that we got, as Janet said, caught with time banking was that we agreed to what we thought we were doing was contributing funding to it. What we ended up doing was running the scheme and getting grant funding for it, and the difference between those two is big.
I accept that it's not.
And that's, I think that what you're suggesting is...
In that context, there are effectively 2 ways of running it, which I was referring to.
Sure.
Either do it effectively a private scheme that the parish council would run for trustees and so on, or give it to Age UK, and that's a very much simpler process.
Sure. But even then, that's a contract that the parish council has to manage rather than.
But I think we should always kind of consider. Again, this isn't absolutely universally true, but by definition, it is simpler for public bodies such as ourselves often to fund and support things that are done for young people, because there are lots of organisations out there which do it, and they're often simpler than it is to support older people who are, without wishing to be negative, who are in many ways equally vulnerable as young people.
Can I suggest to carry this forward, because I'm conscious of time, that we do defer to the October meeting, but we ask Emma, as part of her presentation, to say something about how Time Bank could support, and we ask Brian to come back with perhaps a better costing, something in writing that we can all look at before the next meeting, rather than, because I'm conscious the email was received only today. People may not have had the chance to look at it all properly, and I think a better costing of it and a better summary of what the mobile wardens will actually do would be helpful.
So, how about if I also invite the officer from South Cambs?
To the next meeting?
I think we need to be cautious of the October meeting now as well. It is already chocker, and we keep trying all this stuff on it.
Why don't we do it in two stages
Because I'm just,
and invite her maybe to November or see how we get on in October first?
No, I think we've got to go straight to go. I mean, I'll ask Leslie if she can come. She might not be available to do so, but there's no
Well, no, our October meeting is already too
October
full.
meeting's already
Is it?
got, the agenda's already, because I've had to...
on that basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
Okay,
we're suggesting.
okay.
Maybe, yeah,
But
Emma's going to talk about in October.
and then put it on
Okay.
the sorry.
I just think it'd be, the October meeting might be full, but I think it'd be a good idea to have the two people together.
True.
Maybe. It's a much more effective time, okay?
Yeah, just,
I mean,
We'll start a quarter of an hour early or something, can't we?
Just point out,
Well, can I draw this?
Right, let's do that.
Draw it on toes. David, is this important?
well, I was only going to add, because we have to set our budget by the November meeting, and therefore if we are going to go ahead with it the next financial year, we will need to come to a decision.
Yeah, so that's why we need some better costing from you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, and I'm sure Joe will help with this, and I'm happy to help if you can. Like, okay, update from county councillors.
You've already seen
No.
that.
Received.
Yes, it's in the agenda.
Actually, I have read it. It's in the back. Okay, update from district councillors. Can we just take questions? Can we, because this was sent out with the agenda. Can we just take questions, please, Brian?
Well, I have apologised for Claire's absence, but she's she apologises for not being here, and I apologise for there not being a written report.
There is.
There is.
No, that's the July one. Yeah, that's the July one. That's at the end of the July one.
Sorry about that.
I have a view about it. All reports on the end of the minutes.
Some of you were aware, and I still got some colour in my cheeks from a holiday that I got back to, and I think I've done 13 council meetings since that. This and another
Okay, so do you want to say something very briefly, Brian, then?
No, everything's lovely.
That's great. Well, you've had lots of input today, which has been really helpful, so thank you. Thank you for all your input today, because that's been really helpful. Okay, thank you. I'll just say thank you. Brief update on neighbourhood plan from me. We have a meeting next Tuesday, 17th of September. Please do come along if you can, 7:30 in the evening. Agenda includes looking at the results of the survey of the last summer and the summer before, getting a way forward from that, looking at housing need assessment, and looking at the way forward in terms of some kind of project inception report. So do please come along for that meeting.
Janet, has anyone ever given you a copy of the Plan Salisbury survey, the results from that?
No,
Oh,
it
right,
has
so-
been mentioned before, but
I
no
know,
one.
I was going through a whole pile of
That would be
paperwork
really
and found
helpful.
I think it's
Have
on the top surface.
If we could have that by next Tuesday,
Yes,
that would be really helpful. Thank you ever so much on that. Any correspondence? No. Councillors' issues. Okay, shall I start off this side with Beck? Any issues for you to raise?
Yes, you just said you wanted updates on the last meeting's minutes to be in this part, and I just wanted to mention that I'd said I'd put something to source and seen about the problem with rocks and sourced from rocks,
Yes.
and I did that and put messages on both their Facebook groups as well.
Oh, thank you.
So people are aware of that.
Thank you.
And, oh gosh, the other thing I should possibly mention is also that Emma Fordham sent me an article about time banking, and I completely forgot about it. So it didn't go into the last issue, and that was so embarrassing because I go running with her and we talked about it. That I will definitely remember to put one in the next issue. She's going to send me an updated version. So apologies, I've already apologised profusely to Emma, but apologies to the Parish Council for that as well. And to say, always send your copy to the copy editor as well as to me, because she's great.
Okay, point taken. Thank you. And any issues? No, Brian, any further issues?
No, my blood pressure tablets are taking the effect.
Well, I did actually have a question from Brian, actually.
No.
Wait till it's back. I have no particular issues.
I just wanted to say members will notice that the JUC new properties on Mill Lane very nearly complete. They would have been even more complete had the South Staffordshire Water who've been actually done their bit to connect them up, whereas actually we've had to wait two weeks, I think. So having had a completion date, had tenants ready to move in, we've had to delay because they couldn't get their act together, despite knowing about it since Christmas. So, but anyway, it should be done this week, and we should have tenants in.
Well done, that's great. Neil?
Between Church Lane and Link Road, you've got that footpath and you've got overhanging branches and stuff. It needs cutting, especially on dark nights.
Is that on the footpath?
It's on the footpath and Deckers down the side. It gets you in the eyes.
Footpath 11. Oh, that they are doing that one.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Tony?
Yeah, you may have seen that the Cambridge South East Transport Study consultation started yesterday and runs until the 4th of November. I've got a leaflet here which I'll pass on to Joe so I can have a copy of it. But it should be widely distributed over the next couple of weeks, including on the back page it gives details of exhibitions about the proposals, and there's one installed on Tuesday, the 15th of October.
All right, okay.
So that's for Joe for the office, but everybody should get one.
Okay, yeah. Mike, any comments?
Yeah, I've got great concerns about our cycleway. Past us, there's people, I actually rode behind them in the car, and they was doing 24 miles an hour coming down that hill.
A cyclist
The
was?
cyclists, yeah. And they're not the only ones doing that sort of speed. When we go out of our entrance, when the bonnet of the car touches the cycleway, you can see 5 yards either way. When you get the bonnet up so that the person driving can see, you can only see about 15 to 20 yards because there's a bend. I can see a serious accident coming there because as we go out, anybody coming from Cambridge is going to swerve, they're going to come off the cycleway into the road onto oncoming traffic from Salisbury.
I think we've got an item about the cycleway planned for the planning and
Well, Kevin said he was going to look into it, but I mean...
Okay, but I mean, I've been written to about, as also, which I've copied into Joe, about other things to do with the cycleway. So I think it is important to review it all and gather together all these queries. Yeah, see if he can come along, it's John Stanley, isn't it?
And anybody who's got a car, welcome to come to our entrance and see for themselves how dangerous it is.
We'll get to...
What could be a stupid question later, is there such a thing as speed humps on cycleways? No, I know it sounds stupid, but in all seriousness, would force people to slow down?
Discussion on this at the...
I don't know, I'm just throwing it out.
Well, there's a couple of things. One of the problems that Mike refers to is that there's not the same requirements for display on an exit to a domestic property as there is to a road entrance, which requires visibility. And we've had similar problems in cycleways on the A1307 of Copley Hill, where there's quite a few houses there, and they mucked around with the lines to give priority either over and then gave them back to the cyclists, because for most of the time there's not a problem. And so it's a
But is this something brief, because I'm conscious we need to close the meeting and go on to the next item.
Yes.
So,
Can I just clarify whether this is a cycleway specific problem? Because don't you have the same problem, do you have the same problem seeing cyclists who are cycling on the road and on the road vehicles? Also the right way.
You don't know what cyclists are going to do. They come off the road on at our entrance.
No, you haven't.
They come on.
Okay.
So is that a yes or no? Is it specific to the cycleway? Or is it just a problem with your visibility of the road in general?
This is a problem with the cycleway.
Okay.
The other thing is, Avon Road Hedge, as you approach Salisbury, there's 2 signposts in there which are not visible. There's a school sign and there's a 30-mile-an-hour sign.
Okay. We've got an item on planning about the lines, haven't we? Fading lines, etc. Redoing of lines. Can we add signs onto that? Is that?
We've already approached about all signs that are relevant.
Yeah. Mike was saying about the signs not
You
being.
can't see the school sign, you can't see the 30-mile-an-hour sign.
I think it's report to council, but I think I need to try and get to John Guy to.
Okay, we'll get him. We'll see if we can get him along to planning. But there is an item there, and obviously any councillors who are not on planning who want to come along to that meeting, then you're very welcome. Meanwhile, any emails would be good. Okay.
Another problem I've got. Two last parish council meetings ago has brought up about a sign for spices being on Mill Lane and didn't have planning permission or something. Now there's suddenly
Are you thinking crew days
Yes.
rather than spices?
well, you stop spices, yeah, there's one on the other side of the road now for Mill Lane houses. It's just there.
It's a Parish one.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Are you saying the one on Spice's entrance?
No, it was on Mill Lane, because I didn't know anything about it until it came up at council meeting. That there was going to be a sign put up
In your field?
in the field
Well, that one
for
I
spices.
Not for spices, but
No,
the Mill Lane houses.
Yeah.
No, it was on the right-hand side, going out of Mill Lane, New Road, on the right-hand side.
It was on the far side of the bypass, wasn't it?
Yes,
So
yes.
it was on the field, on one of our fields. Now there's a sign, a large sign appeared on the left-hand side, advertising.
Yeah. Well, the one on the left-hand side was the one that came here for planning
It
permission.
is, yes.
And we objected to it, but it presumably got passed.
Yeah.
I think that's correct.
Yeah. But I don't know about the one on the right-hand side for spices hasn't come,
To us, no.
so we should go and look at that.
Well, that's the one what was discussed last time, the one on the right-hand side.
No, it was the one we talked about was the one that the Mill Lane houses on the left-hand side of your field. Yeah. Anyway,
Anyway,
There's a sign up there now.
Right.
okay, can someone send a photo in on it, or we look at?
Yeah, so we'll photograph it.
Yeah, we can bring it, and then Joe can see, go and check if it's actually got planning permission or not. Okay, thanks, Mike. Tony.
Two things quickly. First thing is 30-mile own mobile traffic controller. It's not working. This is constantly stuck on 30 miles per speed you go through.
Colin is checking it because someone else reported
It's been
that.
checking it for the last 3 months.
Oh, I've only just had it reported that it doesn't matter what speed you go. Yeah, he's on holiday at the moment. Yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, I think it was 3 months ago and it's going to be moved.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, all I can do is send him an email.
Okay.
And the second thing is footpath and hedges along Mill Lane, which I've spoken to about in the last 6 months.
And that still has to be cleared.
Is
Is that one by the fire engine? By the fire station, is it that one?
No,
It's on
by the school.
Yeah, I've sent an email. Me and Brian have spent.
I haven't seen it.
So
Oh, I think
the
you
county
need to-
council are able to take action if the owner doesn't, when it's encroaching either the road or the footpath, which is I know we were close to there last time, but that's where we're at with that now. But there's also the further issue, which I'm trying to take up with the district council enforcement team, because it's as well as being in the conservation area, it's designated as a BVAA, protected village amenity area. Thank you. And the enforcement officers said no to being able to act to restore that to its former condition, which was a nice trim sawn hedge all the way around, the same sort of the height as the wooden barrier there. And of course now we've got wild elder growing there, it's just grown wild, it's a complete mess. And it isn't anywhere near the village amenity it was when it was first so designated, but we got a pushback from that. But we did get action on the Barclays site.
Yeah. Okay,
Sorry.
can we just, before we leave footpaths, I think Joe said...
There is no footpath there. From Butler's Way, for about half a mile, where the footpath goes, you cannot put 1 foot on the footpath. It is completely overgrown.
So that should be being addressed by the county council and recharged back to the families.
How long does that take? Do you know?
Too long.
2 years.
But
It's been ongoing, but
we have been
doing something about it
kept
every
going
week.
with it.
Perhaps we'll push harder.
Well, we, as a parish council, we wrote to them and never got any response, and then that's when we started with the county and just
What do you suggest? Another letter?
they won't respond to me.
Well, then the developers of that property have always been incredible.
Yeah. Well, the county councillors are the one best placed to get the county council to do their job.
They can enforce
So
it.
we should get the county councillors to do something.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so can we put that on?
Well, no, I am. No, I'm doing it. I'm
Yeah.
in
Joe
touch with
will
him to deal with that.
that.
So he's
Yeah.
we're between us.
Anything else?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Stephen? No? Okay.
So
You had one question.
just a quickie. So following up from the from the Fulton Road bungalow, do we actually manage to sort something out for the residents concerning access? You were going to. It was discussed at the meeting.
Fulton Road bungalow?
Yes.
Oh, still in the
Their access to parking. You
Oh,
said you were going to
I
get
think
in
I'm going to have to come back to you on that. I can't remember where we got to on it. But we did ask.
Yes. Well, it was raised in the meeting.
There is an open action, you're right.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And we're going to deal with the report for the...
Well, we're not going to,
at
because-
another meeting.
yes,
At another meeting.
because you
the minutes aren't available yet. So on that basis, I can close the meeting. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.